Hello, everyone. My name is Marsh, and welcome back to my review of the third episode of The Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. Let's jump into it. So, since we're reviewing the third episode, there's going to be spoilers from here on out. I keep my first episodes of seasons and shows spoiler free, but after that, it's going to be spoiler filled, and then we'll have a spoiler free season finale with an overall season like review, as well as a spoiler filled one. But for now, we're going to go ahead and do a spoiler filled episode 3 review. So let's jump right into it. So, right off the bat, this episode did improve on a few things for me, to be honest. I liked how it didn't try to focus on every single person that we met before, and it focused more on a few specific storylines. The storylines specifically that were working for me, we'll start out with those. That would be the one with the elf guy. I still don't know his name yet. The one who got captured by the orcs and everything. Originally, I wasn't too connected with his plotline and story. I thought it was like somewhat interesting. We know what's going on with the orcs digging the tunnels, but the love story, I wasn't feeling the connection between them, and that was kind of like ruining the vibe for me because I didn't feel like they really had a connection all that well. There was felt kind of forced in a way, if that makes sense. And now that we actually got to focus on him and not on a love story, I feel like it progressed very well, and I grew to like him more, and it improved way more than the first episode or the first two episodes. The next storyline that is also connecting with me is actually with a new character, that being Asyliador and his father. Sorry, I forgot the name. I'm blanking on it. His name means elf friend, as we learn in the episode. But I'm pretty sure this is like the lineage for Aragorn. It's like his great grandfathers, etc., going forward, because he's related to Asyliador, I think, if I remember correctly. So since I know that, there was kind of like an automatic connection with that and made me want to grab onto the characters, at least with them specifically, to learn more about what it is. And he had that hint in the episode where he said the king still lives, that was replaced in the town he grew up on, or the hall that they visited, the Hall of Lore. I'm interested to see where that goes and uncover more of the backstory, since I do know it eventually leads down to Aragorn. And as someone who's never read the books, I kind of thought that from what I knew, Aragorn's family was royalty, but it's interesting knowing that they weren't always royalty if they got like seceded basically, or usurped, I guess might be a better word, from the current queen that we saw in Numenor. So we'll see how that goes. On to more of a negative, I would say with Galadriel, to be honest. I'm still having trouble connecting to her. I know like who her character is. She's supposed to be like the strong and powerful person, and that's not the particular issue. I think it's mostly with like her herself. I just don't like her. I think part of it is she's just so brash and unlikable in a way. Like she just has to cause confrontation with every character she's like in the scene with, if that makes sense. That kind of still annoys me. She was getting a little bit better towards the end, though, I will admit. I was starting to enjoy her a little bit more, especially when she started to have like some banter and actually get to know the people around her and like respect them. But for a majority of the episode, she was still having problems where she's still like arrogant about everything and thinks she's always right or perfect, and it's kind of annoying. I guess that's her character. It doesn't seem like that if you're comparing it to like the movies. She seems more like noble and like caring, especially in the books as well. She doesn't seem as like arrogant, so it's like somewhat changed, at least my perspective. I'm not an expert, so I don't know, but that's the way I'm seeing it. And then also another thing that's improving for me a little bit is the story with the Harfoots. I'm almost certain now the person that landed the stranger is Gandalf. The more and more they are pushing towards it, the more it's seeming like it's going to be Gandalf. I think part of that is, for example, Gandalf has an affinity towards hobbits in the movies and books, unlike all the other wizards. And as we see, he's growing an affinity with the Harfoots, the descendants of hobbits, or pre-descendants, I don't know. He's growing an affinity with the Harfoots, so basically he is becoming to like them as they teach him language and just help him survive. And we also get to know a little bit more about the Harfoots and their culture, which is pretty interesting. Them being caravanners and travelers, and they have to go ahead and just go on. And if people get left behind, they get left behind. So we see Nori's friend I forgot her name, but she basically her whole family got left behind at one point, and they were having like the ceremony where they talk about the ones who couldn't go on or something of that sort. And then they zoomed in on her friend, of course, when they're speaking all the names. And she's by herself with her little own like wheelbarrow, so she's like alone. So something happened to her family. I think they said it was like it was raining and like a flood went through or something. Sorry, I just finished the episode not too long ago. Sorry if I don't remember. But it was good to get a backstory for her friend, and then also like build up the culture of the Harfoots, as well as do the big reveal for the Harfoots is that Nori is helping this stranger, and they see the stranger, and a lot of them are like, oh, we should banish Nori because she broke law and befriended this person. But then later in the episode, when her father has like the broken foot and he's trying to carry the wagon, the stranger comes to help, and he says friend, and we like, it's sort of like them accepting him in a way, at least her family. So we'll see what happens with that, but I'm pretty sure it's Gandalf now. Not sure how much I like that, but with like what it's showing, the affinity he's growing towards them, and then the affinity he had towards hobbits in the trilogy of the movies, it's probably Gandalf. We'll see. We'll see. But then jumping back a little, let's go ahead and jump back to Numenor real quick, and let's jump to the other character there, Halbrand. Halbrand is like obviously Sauron, I think. I don't think there's any way to dispute it at this point, to be honest, unless they're so blatantly making him such a red herring that someone else is going to pop out. For example, like when we see Halbrand, he has like a different way about him and the way he speaks. When he was in the bar, for example, he had like a rage moment where he was like gonna snap and like go ballistic on them, and he decided not to, try to do it in a different way. Later, when he gets caught stealing the sigil, he does have that rage moment and he goes ballistic and kills two of them, or like maims them. I guess we don't know if they're dead. And we see that like craziness from him. And I think he has like that darkness in him. And he even says his family is from a royal lineage, as we learned, that was the kings of the Southlands that united all the tribes to fight for Morgoth. And so they're building him up to be Sauron. I don't know if they're making it too obvious at this point. They should have kind of like pushed it on a little bit further, because Galadriel found out right away and showed the sigil and everything. So that it's leading me to believe it might be a red herring because of how obvious it is, but I guess we'll see what they do with that. But yeah, he's growing on me a bit more. Like, I keep suspecting things out of him though, because I know he's Sauron, or we're led to believe that. So like, I keep expecting sinister and trickery to go along with him. And then he also has an affinity towards wanting to be a smith, and we know Sauron and Celebrimbor were the ones that crafted the rings, and Sauron was the one that brought his methods to teach Celebrimbor about the rings. So I'm assuming what's going to happen is Galadriel and Halbrand will escape. Galadriel will take him into the elf town and stuff like that to share knowledge or whatever, and then he's going to convince Celebrimbor to make the rings in that way, but keeping his like lineage a secret. I don't know how, see, because now it's too obvious, because they can't bring him in and do that with the elves, because then it's like he has a tie to Morgoth. Why are you going to let him have any influence? So they have to bring in someone else to be Sauron. I don't know. We'll see how they do it, but if that's the case, they kind of like revealed it too early, if you know anything about the lore, I guess. I mean, I haven't read Silmarillion. I just know it from like videos I've watched online and stuff like that, so we'll see what happens with that. Kind of went on a mini rant, sorry about that. But going back to the things with Numenor, another plot hole was the part with Elendil. He was talking to the queen, and the queen's like, I'm going to be trying you for treason, or I could try you for treason because you brought an elf. And so she says, she gives him a promotion essentially for that, I guess, in a weird way. And then the other weird part is they confine Galadriel and Halbrand to the palace grounds specifically. Meanwhile, both of them get out. Did they not keep anyone watching? And his job is to watch her. But even though she's confined to the palace grounds, you're going to break the rules of Elendil and take her 4 hours, because you said a quarter-day ride to the Hall of Lore. Like, aren't you supposed to keep her on the palace grounds, like the queen said? You literally just, like, broke the queen's word after she said she was going to try you for treason. I guess it's a small thing that no one's probably going to notice, but I don't know, kind of like annoyed me a bit with that, but it's fine. Another part as well, it's like nice to see the travel and everything, but was all those shots with like riding the horses on the beach really necessary? Yeah, they look beautiful and stuff, but like there's no point to that scene. You could have like, I don't know, was riding the horse across the field not enough? I don't know. It was just really random that I noticed, like, cause usually you want most scenes to convey some sort of urgency or have some importance. So having scenes like that, which are just like scenery based, where's the importance in them? I'm nitpicking at this point, I feel like, though, so I'll go ahead and move on. Finally, we'll move back to the elf that's been captured. He basically has been captured by all the goblins and orcs, and they have him prisoner with all the other elves that he was with that he abandoned. So a little awkward, but I guess they don't know why he abandoned, but it's fine. They make a plan to escape and everything, and they're going to escape. And this is where another like issue I had with like the CG, in a way, because you have $1 billion budget, but then when you bring out the warg and the warg bites the stomachs, it was probably like the worst blood and gore effects. I don't know if that's because they had to keep it PG, but it was like the worst blood effect I've ever seen. And why'd you make the warg look so ugly? What was wrong with how they looked in the actual Lord of the Rings? I feel like they made it look worse, which is a weird complaint because the orcs have looked amazing so far, but they made them look worse. And then it's also, I don't know, it's just weird the way they're handling the orcs. Like, oh, we're going to give you water rations. Oh, no, now I'm going to slice your throat. Like, I guess they're toying with them because they're prisoners, I guess. But, like, I don't know. The writing with the orcs was a little weird. I love how they look. And I'm growing more and more closer with the elf character specifically. And he's showing more competence. But there's just, like, a few nitpicks I have. I sound very negative. I apologize. It's just we tend to focus on negatives more than positives. One thing I did love, though, about it was when the elf that he helped escape went on the ridge, and then he's like looking out over the trees and he gets shot. That was so good. The fact that they could show how desperate he was to escape, as well as how despairing and horrible it is that he can't, because there's literally armies surrounding and everything is destroyed. And so that was really well done, basically showing that they have no chance of escape. And then they would take him down, and we meet the corrupted elf that's handling all the orcs and everything that wanted to meet the elf that we're following. I forget his name. I apologize. I think it's Anir. I'll put it right here. But yeah, I'm growing more towards that. So overall, just to summarize, a plus was the elf story, growing towards that. The Harfoots, I enjoy where that's going. They didn't focus too much time on it. The also plus is with Elendil and Isildur. I like that storyline so far. My cons at the moment are with Galadriel still. Halbrand, if he's a red herring, that's more of a story con. And then a few moments with like the story wise, like, are these shots necessary? So like what I mentioned with the writing, and then also like the CG and effects with when the war came out. I feel like they made the warg look worse than it did in Lord of the Rings. So overall, that's my cons and pros. I think the episode was probably a 7 out of 10. And so it's still around that range. It still definitely can improve to like an 8 or a 9. We'll see where the show goes. We have 5 more episodes, I believe, that are all an hour long. So we'll see what happens with that. But not too bad right now. It's slightly above average, I would say. And so we'll see what happens. But overall, let me know what you thought of the episode as well in the comments below. If you can like and subscribe, that'd be much appreciated. And I'll see you guys next week for the 4th episode. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.